Commander Zixtel pressed his three-fingered hand against the cold metal wall of the Terran embassy. The lights were still on. The air still hummed with the sound of working machines. But something felt very wrong. "Sir, we have checked all 47 rooms," said Lieutenant Kextra, her blue skin darker than usual with worry. "No humans anywhere, not even bodies." Zixtel walked slowly through the main hall. His tall, thin body moved like a crane as he looked around. Pictures of Earth hung on the walls. Human flags still waved gently in the artificial breeze. Everything looked normal, but the silence was too loud. "What about the security cameras?" he asked. "That is the strange part, sir. The cameras showed nothing unusual. 3 days ago, humans were here doing their normal work. 2 days ago, they were still here. Then yesterday morning, the cameras show empty rooms. No one left. No one came. They just stopped being here." Zixtel had been a commander for 30 years. He had seen wars, plagues, and disasters. This felt like a mystery that would give him nightmares. They walked into the embassy dining room. Plates of half-eaten food sat on tables. A cup of coffee was still warm. Someone had been eating breakfast and just vanished in the middle of their meal. "Sir, look at this," called Sergeant Nolvik from across the room. He was holding a small device. It is a human communication pad. "Still working?" Zixtel took the device. Screen showed a message that was never sent. It said, "Tell Mom, I am safe. The new assignment starts tomorrow." The message was dated 3 days ago. "Check their personal rooms," Zixtel ordered. "Look for clues about where they might have gone." Teams spread out through the embassy. Zixtel went to the office of Ambassador Kelvin Turner. He had met Turner many times at galactic meetings. The human was always polite, but seemed tired. Turner had a gift for making angry aliens talk to each other instead of fighting. Turner's office was neat and organized. Papers were stacked in perfect piles. His chair was pushed under his desk like he had just finished work for the day. But on his desk was something interesting. A personal journal. Zixtel opened the journal carefully. The writing was in human English, which he could read, but not perfectly. The last entry was from 3 days ago. It said, "Another day of fixing problems no one wants to admit exist. The Altarians and vegans are fighting again over the shipping routes. They will ask me to solve it, then pretend they thought of the solution themselves. I am tired of being the person who makes peace, but never gets credit for it. Maybe they will understand what we do for them when we are not here to do it anymore." Zixtel felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He kept reading. Older entries. Mining equipment on Kepler 7 broke down again. Chief Martinez called me because the alien engineers cannot fix it. They will fix it, then act like they never needed help. Why do we keep helping people who think we are not important? Ambassador Korth called me to help with the trade dispute. He will take credit for solving it, just like last time. I am starting to think we should stop helping and see what happens. Dr. Cross discovered a cure for the Helix virus, but the Galactic Medical Board wants to study it for 2 years before approving it. People are dying now, but they care more about their procedures than saving lives. At least Kevin Palmer got the AI network running better. No one will thank him for it. Zixtel closed the journal. His hands were shaking a little. He called his team together in the main hall. "What did you find?" he asked. "All personal items are still here," reported Lieutenant Kextra. "Clothes, books, pictures, everything. But no humans." "The medical bay still has human medicines," added Sergeant Nolvik. "Even expensive ones they would not leave behind if they were planning to move." "The transport records show no ships leaving the station with humans on them," said Corporal Zimta. "No requests for travel permits. No flight plans filed." Zixtel thought about this. It made no sense. Humans did not just disappear. They were always very careful about following rules and making reports about everything they did. "Sir, we are getting reports from other stations," said Lieutenant Kextra, reading from her communication device. "The human embassy on Proxima Station is also empty. Same situation, everything left behind, no humans anywhere." More reports came in over the next hour. Vega Station, no humans. The mining colony on asteroid XJ7, no humans. The research facility on Europa, no humans. All empty, all at the same time, all with no explanation. How many places? Asked Zixtel. 17 star systems so far, sir. Every human facility, every human settlement, every human workplace. Empty. Zixtel sat down heavily in a human chair. It was too small for his long body, but he needed to sit. This was not just strange, this was impossible. You cannot move millions of people without anyone noticing. Sir, there is one more thing, said Lieutenant Kextra quietly. The human Marcus Webb who worked on our ship as an engineer. He is gone too. His room on our vessel is empty. His things are gone, but no one saw him leave. That is impossible. We have been in space for 2 weeks. How did he leave a ship traveling faster than light? We do not know, sir. Zixtel stood up and walked to the large window that looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, all the humans had gone, but where? And why did they leave so quietly? Prepare a report for the Galactic Council, he said finally. Tell them about the missing humans. Tell them we need to start looking for them. Sir, what should we say about why they might have left? Zixtel thought about Ambassador Turner's journal. He thought about the tired look in Turner's eyes during their last meeting. He thought about how humans always seemed to be the ones solving problems, but other species always took credit for the solutions. Tell them we do not know, he said. But tell them we need to find out quickly. 3 days later, Zixtel stood before the Galactic Council on the capital world of Centauri Prime. The great dome-shaped room is filled with representatives from 43 different species. They sat in rows of seats that curved around the speaking platform like the inside of a giant egg. Honorable Council members, Zixtel began. I report that humanity appears to have left known space entirely. We have found no trace of human presence in any of their former locations. Council leader Vorthak, a massive creature with 4 arms and skin like gray stone, leaned forward in his chair. Commander, are you suggesting that an entire species simply vanished? That appears to be what happened, sir. Impossible. Humans have been part of our galactic community for 1,000 years. They have colonies, businesses, families mixed with other species. They cannot just leave. Nevertheless, sir, they appear to have done exactly that. Murmurs filled the chamber. Representatives spoke to each other in dozens of different languages. Some seemed worried, others seemed annoyed. What evidence do you have that they left voluntarily? Asked Ambassador Korth of the Vegan Alliance. They know. Signs of struggle, sir. No distress signals. No evidence of force being used. Their possessions were left behind in organized ways, as if they packed only what they needed for a long journey. Council leader Vorthak waved one of his 4 hands dismissively. This is a minor inconvenience at most. Humans were useful, but hardly essential. The galaxy functioned perfectly well before they arrived, and it will function perfectly well. Now, perhaps this is for the best. We can handle our own affairs without their constant interference. Many council members nodded in agreement. Zixtel felt that cold feeling in his stomach again. Sir, I recommend we try to contact them or discover where they went. They may have knowledge or skills that could be important. Commander, you worry too much? Humans were good at mediating disputes and fixing machines, but any of our species can learn to do those things. We will be fine without them. Zixtel saluted and left the chamber. As he walked down the long corridor toward his ship, he could not shake the feeling that Council Leader Vorthak was very, very wrong. Chief Engineer Velinara stared at the broken quantum extractor with growing panic. The massive machine was the size of a small building and normally hummed with power that could light up entire cities. Now it sat silent and dark like a sleeping giant that would never wake up. How many extractors are down? She asked her assistant, a young Kronos named Piptel. 14 across the mining system, Chief. All stopped working within the last week. We cannot figure out why. Velinara walked around the machine, looking for obvious problems. She had been an engineer for 20 years. But these human-designed extractors were different from anything her people had built. They were more efficient, more powerful, and much more complex. Did we call the maintenance team? She asked. That Is the problem, Chief? The maintenance team was mostly humans. They are all gone now. The instruction manuals they left behind do not make sense. Velinara picked up one of the thick books the humans had written about maintaining the extractors. She opened it to a random page and tried to read the instructions. Step 47. Calibrate the quantum resonance frequency to match the harmonic oscillation of the crystal matrix while maintaining phase coherence across all dimensional interfaces. She closed the book and rubbed her forehead with her forehands. The words were in her language, but they might as well have been written in ancient magic spells. Chief, the humans who worked here, they never taught us how to do the deep repairs, said Piptail. They always said they would show us later, but later never came. Now they are gone, and we do not know how to fix anything. Velinara looked at the control panel of the extractor. It had hundreds of buttons, switches, and displays. When the humans operated it, they moved their hands across the controls like they were playing a musical instrument. When her people tried to operate it, they had to follow written instructions step by step, and even then, things went wrong. Chief, we are getting calls from the other mining sites. They're having the same problems. Without the extractors working, we cannot mine the crystals that power our cities. Velinara felt a heavy weight in her chest. The Kronos Mining Consortium supplied power crystals to 47 different worlds. If they could not mine the crystals, those worlds would start losing power within a month. Try to contact any human engineers who might still be in the galaxy, she ordered. Maybe some of them stayed behind. We have been trying for 3 days, Chief. No human engineers anywhere. They are all gone. Meanwhile, 3 star systems away. Mediator Calthan sat in his office, trying to solve a problem that should have been simple. The Centauri Republic and the Vegan Alliance were arguing about who controlled the shipping routes through the neutral zone. Both sides claimed they had the right to charge taxes on ships passing through their space. This kind of argument happened every few months. Usually Calthan would call in a human mediator, and the problem would be solved within a few days. Humans had a strange gift for making angry species talk to each other instead of fighting. But now there were no human mediators to call. Calthan looked at his files about previous disputes. Every major peace treaty in the last 3 centuries had human names on it. Ambassador Lisa Monroe had negotiated the trade agreement of 2387. Diplomat. Paul Anderson had ended the border war of 2401. Mediator. Carol Stevens had created the neutral zone, accords that kept peace for over 50 years. He tried to understand how they had done it. The official reports were written in the proper diplomatic language, but they did not explain the real techniques. The humans used. How did they know exactly what to say to make enemies become friends? How did they understand the cultural differences that other species could not figure out? Sir, the Centauri ambassador is here to see you, announced his secretary. Ambassador Morkan entered the office. He was a tall, thin being with silver skin and 3 eyes. He looked angry, which was unusual for a Centauri. They were normally very calm and polite. Mediator Calthan, the Vegan Alliance, has started stopping our ships and demanding payment for using their space. This is against the neutral zone accords. I understand your concern, Ambassador. I will speak with the vegan representative. Ambassador Stevens handled these problems. She fixed them in 1 day. How long will you take? Calthan felt uncomfortable. I will do my best to resolve this quickly. After Ambassador Morkan left, Calthan called the Vegan Alliance representative. Ambassador Zexara was a short, round being with purple fur and a voice like grinding metal. The Centauri ships are carrying weapons through our space without permission, she said immediately. We have the right to inspect them and charge fees. The neutral zone accords say that commercial ships can pass through freely as long as they follow the approved routes. The accords are old and need to be changed. The humans who wrote them are gone. We do not have to follow their rules anymore. Calthan spent 3 hours on the communication call, but he could not get the 2 sides to agree on anything. When Ambassador Stevens handled these calls, both sides usually started laughing by the end and agreed to have dinner together. Calthan only made them angrier. On the far edge of the galaxy, Captain Jake Sullivan's private security office sat empty and dark. His secretary, a Rigelian named Tixara, sat at her desk staring at the communications board that had not stopped flashing for 4 days. Captain Sullivan's company had provided security for merchant ships traveling through dangerous parts of space. But he had not just protected ships with weapons and guards. He had built a network of informants who told him about pirate activities before they happened. He knew which criminal organizations were planning attacks and when they would strike. Now he was gone, and his network of informants had no one to report to. "Miss Tixara, we have another distress call," said her assistant. "The merchant ship Golden Star is under attack near the Vega system. Send the emergency response team," she said. "The response team says they cannot find the pirates. Captain Sullivan always knew where the pirates would be hiding, but we do not have that information." Tixara looked at Captain Sullivan's private files, but they were written in a code she could not understand. He had been very careful about protecting his sources. Now that protection meant no one could access the information that kept the shipping lanes safe. "How many ships have been attacked this week?" she asked. 17, miss. That is more than we usually see in a whole month. The pirates know Captain Sullivan is gone. They are becoming brave. Dr. Nathan Cross's laboratory on Proxima Station was sealed with security locks, but the alien scientists working there were getting desperate. Inside the lab were the only samples of the cure for the Helix virus, a disease that had killed millions of people before Dr. Cross found a way to Stop it, Dr. Kickstell. The station's chief medical officer stood outside the lab with a team of technicians. They had been trying to break the security codes for 2 days. "The virus has appeared again on 3 colony worlds," she told her team. "Without Dr. Cross's cure, people will start dying." "We found his research notes," said one of the technicians. "But they do not make sense. He writes about using intuitive biological harmony and emotional resonance with cellular structures." "What does that mean?" Dr. Kickstell shook her head. "I have studied medicine for 30 years, and I have never heard of those techniques. Humans always seem to understand biology in ways that we could not learn from textbooks. Dr. Cross's assistant says he used to talk to the virus samples, said he could feel what they needed to become harmless instead of deadly. That is impossible. Viruses do not have feelings. But his cures always worked when no one else's did." On the planet Kepler-7, Administrator Nexvel looked at the reports from his colony worlds with growing worry. Ships that brought food, medicine, and equipment to 43 different planets were starting to arrive late or not at all. The shipping schedules had been managed by a human, a company called Stellar Logistics. Captain Lisa Monroe had personally designed the routes that millions of ships followed every day. Her system was so efficient that ships rarely arrived more than a few hours late. But Captain Monroe was gone, and her routing system was breaking down. "Sir, the food shipment to Colony World JX9 is 5 days late," reported his assistant.
Hours.
"They have enough food for 3 more days." "What about the medical supplies for the outbreak on Rigel 4? Also delayed." The ship got lost trying to navigate through the asteroid field in the Vega system. Captain Monroe's route guides are written in a way that only human pilots seem to understand. "Can we not simply follow the same paths the ships have been using?" "We tried that, sir. But Captain Monroe's routes change based on solar activity, asteroid movements, and pirate activity. She updated them every day based on information from hundreds of sources. We do not have access to those sources." Administrator Nexville pulled up a map of the galaxy showing all the shipping routes. It looked like a spider web of lines connecting thousands of worlds. Every line had been carefully planned to avoid danger and deliver goods as quickly as possible.
Ow.
Did one human manage to coordinate all of this? He wondered. The reports say she had a special talent for seeing patterns that others could not see. She could look at shipping data and immediately know the best route for any cargo. Senior Systems Analyst Rixandra stared at the massive computer screen showing the galaxy-wide communication network. Red warning lights flashed everywhere. Error messages scrolled past faster than she could read them. The network that connected thousands of worlds was falling apart. "When did this start?" she asked her assistant, a young technician named Vareem. 2 days ago, the delays began getting worse. Yesterday, entire star systems lost contact for hours. Today, some worlds cannot communicate at all. Alexandra had worked with computer networks for 15 years, but she had never seen anything like this. The Galactic Communication Network was supposed to be the most reliable system ever built. Messages between star systems usually took only minutes to deliver. Now they were taking hours or days, and many messages never arrived at all. "Show me the core programming," she ordered. Varem brought up the fundamental code that made the network work. Alexandra looked at thousands of lines of complex instructions. Most of it was written in standard programming languages that any computer specialist could understand. But the most important parts were written in a style she had never seen before. "Who wrote this section?" she asked, pointing at a particularly complex part of the code. According to the records, it was Dr. Kevin Palmer, a human programmer. He designed the core intelligence that routes messages across the galaxy. Alexandra tried to understand Dr. Palmer's code. It was elegant and efficient, but it worked in ways that seemed impossible. Programs seemed to predict problems before they happened and find solutions that no logical system should be able to discover. "Code does not follow any known programming principles," she said. "How does it work?" Dr. Palmer's assistant left some notes. She said he had an unusual way of thinking about computer networks. He treated them like living creatures instead of machines. "That makes no sense. Computers are logical systems. They follow rules." But his systems worked better than anything anyone else ever built. "The communication network has been running perfectly for 20 years. Alexandra looked at the error messages flashing on her screen. "It is not running perfectly now. The network is trying to fix itself, but it does not know how. Dr. Palmer used to make small adjustments every day to keep everything working smoothly. Without those adjustments, the system is breaking down. Can we not just follow his maintenance procedures?" Found his maintenance logs, but they do not make sense. He wrote things like, "The network feels tired today," and gave Sector 7 some extra attention, because it seemed lonely. How can a computer network feel tired or lonely? Meanwhile, on the trading planet of Commerce Central, panic was spreading. Through the markets, ships carrying food, medicine, and raw materials were arriving days or weeks late. Some ships never arrived at all, lost in space without the communication network to guide them. Merchant Captain Dexera stood in the loading bay of her cargo ship, watching her crew try to figure out where to deliver their cargo of medical supplies. They had been scheduled to arrive at Colony World RX-15 3 days ago, but their navigation computer could not find a safe route through the asteroid field that surrounded the colony. "Captain, the navigation charts are all wrong," reported her pilot. "The safe passages that have been used for decades are not marked correctly." "What do you mean, not marked correctly?" "The charts show where the asteroids were months ago, but asteroids move. Someone has been updating the charts constantly to show the current safe paths, but no one has updated them for weeks." Captain Dexera looked at the navigation records. Every update was signed by Captain Lisa Monroe of the human-run company's Stellar Navigation Services. The updates came every few days, sometimes every few hours when the asteroid fields were particularly active. Captain Monroe mapped every dangerous route in the galaxy, said the pilot. She had a gift for predicting how asteroids and space debris would move. Her route updates kept millions of ships safe. Where is she now? Gone with all the other humans. And without her updates, we cannot safely navigate to half the worlds in the galaxy. Captain Dexera made a difficult decision. Set course for Colony World RX-15. We will have to risk the asteroid field. People are dying without these medical supplies. Captain, that is very dangerous, without updated navigation charts. People will die if we do not deliver these supplies. We have to try. On the planet Rigel Prime, Ambassador Nick Solon was having the worst day of her diplomatic career. She had been trying for 6 hours to negotiate a simple trade agreement between the Centauri Republic and the Andromedon Consortium, the kind of agreement that usually took human diplomats 30 minutes to arrange. The Andromedans are offering 12,000 credits per ton of titanium, she explained to the Centauri representative. That is a fair price based on current market rates. Ambassador Tolvin of the Centauri Republic shook his head with all 3 of his eyes. 12,000 is not enough. We want 15,000. But the Andromedans say they cannot pay more than 12,000 and still make a profit. then they should find a different business. Ambassador Nick Solon felt frustrated. She had watched human diplomats work. They seemed to have magic words that made both sides happy. They would listen to what each side wanted, then suggest creative solutions that no one else had thought of. Perhaps we could arrange a deal where the price starts at 12,000, but increases if titanium becomes more valuable. No, 15,000 or no deal. The Andromedan representative, a being with blue fur and 6 arms, crossed all of his arms in annoyance. 15,000 is too much. We will buy titanium from someone else. Wait, said Ambassador Nick Solon. Desperately, let us try to find a compromise. But both representatives stood up and left the room. Another trade negotiation had failed. Ambassador. Nick Solon sat alone in the conference room and thought about all the successful negotiations she had witnessed. Human diplomats like Ambassador Carol Stevens seemed to understand things about other species that she could never learn. They knew when to be firm and when to be gentle. They knew which words would make different species feel respected and valued. How did they do it? She wondered aloud. Dr. Rachel Martinez's research laboratory on Europa Station was locked and sealed. But the medical emergency on 3 different worlds was getting worse every day. The Helix virus had returned, and without Dr. Martinez's expertise in cross-species medicine, doctors were struggling to treat patients from different species. Chief Medical Officer Kalanara stood outside the sealed laboratory with a team of the best doctors in the galaxy. Inside the lab were detailed notes about how to modify medicines so they would work safely on different types of alien biology. The virus is spreading faster than we can treat it, reported Dr. Wexton. We have tried using the standard antiviral knee medicines, but they do not work on Regelian patients. They work on Centauri patients, but make vegan patients very sick. What about Dr. Martinez's research notes? Asked Kalanara. We have been studying them for days. She wrote about something called biological empathy. She claimed she could sense how different species would react to medicines before she tested them. That is impossible. Medicine is based on chemistry and biology, not feelings. But her medicines always worked. She could create a single treatment that was safe for 5 different species. No one else has ever been able to do that. Dr. Kalanara looked through the glass window at Dr. Martinez's laboratory. The equipment inside was incredibly advanced, but without understanding how Dr. Martinez used it, the machines were just expensive decorations. How many patients do we have now? She asked. Over 3,000 across the 3 worlds. The number is growing every day. And how many have we successfully treated? Less than half. And some of our treatments are causing new problems. The planet Centauri Prime, the Galactic Banking Consortium, was facing a crisis that threatened to destroy the economic system of 43 worlds. The complex mathematics that kept different currencies stable and prevented economic wars were failing. Economist Jax Paul stared at screens full of numbers that made no sense. Currency exchange rates were fluctuating wildly. The Altarian credit had lost 30% of its value in 2 days. The vegan currency had gained so much value that other species could no longer afford to trade with them. Who managed these calculations before? He asked his assistant. A human economist named Helen Brooks. She had developed a mathematical model that predicted how currency changes would affect trade between different species. Where are her calculations? We have them, but they are incredibly complex. She was constantly adjusting hundreds of variables based on political events. Trade volumes, resource discoveries, and even weather patterns on farming worlds. Jax Ball looked at Helen Brooks' mathematical formulas. They covered dozens of pages, and included factors that he had never considered important for economic calculations. She calculated the effect of asteroid mining on currency values. How do asteroids affect money? According to her notes, if asteroid mining increases the supply of rare metals, it affects the value of currencies on worlds that export those metals. If a farming world has bad weather, it affects the price of food, which affects how much money people spend on other goods. This is incredibly complex. How did she keep track of all these factors? Council leader Vorthax stood before the largest gathering of alien scientists, engineers, and diplomats in galactic history. The emergency assembly hall on Centauri Prime was filled with representatives from every major species. The air hummed. With tension and desperation, you're here to solve the crisis caused by humanity's departure, Vorthak announced. We will create the Human Replacement Initiative. Our best minds will study human methods and learn to do their jobs. Chief Scientist Morden stepped forward. He was considered the smartest being in the Altarian Empire. 3 advanced degrees and 40 years of research experience. We will start by analyzing human technology and reverse engineering their solutions. The audience murmured with approval. Many believed that if humans could do something, other species could learn to do it better. I have been assigned to study the fusion reactor designs of Dr. Peter Williams, Morden continued. His reactors power 30% of inhabited worlds. How difficult can it be to understand the work of one human? 2 weeks later, Morden stood in the ruins of what had been the primary power facility on Kepler-6. The fusion reactor had exploded 3 days ago, turning 50 square kilometers of the planet's surface into a radioactive wasteland. 15 million people had been evacuated from their homes. What went wrong? Asked his assistant, Dr. Pixnell. Morden held up a thick manual filled with Dr. Williams' reactor designs. I followed his instructions exactly. The fusion process started normally. Then the containment field collapsed. But you are the expert on fusion technology in the galaxy. Dr. Williams' designs are different from anything we have built before. He used safety protocols that make no scientific sense, but somehow they worked when he operated them. Morden pointed to a section of the destroyed reactor. Here, he installed what he called harmonic resonance dampeners. According to physics, they should do nothing. But when I removed them to make the reactor more efficient, the whole system became unstable. Why would he install useless equipment? I do not think it was useless. I think Dr. Williams understood something about fusion. Reactions that we do not, something that is not written in any textbook. Dr. Pixnell looked at the evacuation camps in the distance, where millions of refugees waited to return to their homes. How many reactors are we responsible for maintaining? 147 across 30 star systems. And how many have we successfully operated using human designs? Morden's voice was barely a whisper. None. Every reactor we have touched has either shut down or exploded. Meanwhile, on the diplomatic front, Ambassador Calthon was failing spectacularly at his assignment to replicate human negotiation techniques. He sat in a conference room with representatives from the Andromedan Consortium and the Rigel Federation, trying to resolve a trade dispute that was threatening to become a war. The Andromedans have been stealing our shipping routes for 3 weeks, declared Ambassador Nexira of the Rigel Federation. We demand compensation and a promise that they will stop. We are not stealing anything, replied Ambassador Zolkar of the Andromedan Consortium. Those routes belong to no one. You have as much right to use them as anyone. Calthon had studied recordings of human diplomats handling similar disputes. Ambassador Carol Stevens had resolved an almost identical conflict just 6 months ago. But watching her work and actually doing it were completely different things. Perhaps we could establish a schedule where both of your fleets use the routes on different days, he suggested. Impossible, said Ambassador Nexira. Our cargo ships operate on tight schedules. We cannot wait for convenient days to ship our goods. Then perhaps the Andromedans could pay a small fee for using routes that pass near Rigel territory. Absolutely not, said Ambassador Zolkar. We will not pay tribute to use open space. Calthon tried to remember how Ambassador Stevens had made both sides happy in similar situations. She seemed to find creative solutions that gave everyone something they wanted. But after 4 hours of negotiations, both ambassadors were angrier than when they started. This is hopeless, said Ambassador Nexira, standing up to leave. Andromedans obviously do not want peace. We want peace, but not surrender, replied Ambassador Zolkar, also standing. If the Rigel Federation wants war, they can have war. Both ambassadors left the room, and Calthon sat alone, wondering what Ambassador Stevens would have done differently. He had followed all the standard diplomatic procedures, but somehow he had made everything worse. On the outer rim of the galaxy, Agent Tim Bradley's former intelligence network was collapsing with devastating consequences. Without his carefully cultivated sources, and informants. Criminal organizations were becoming bolder every day. Security Chief Kexmora received the daily crime reports with growing horror. Piracy attacks had increased by 400%. Slave trading rings that had been dormant for decades were operating openly. Weapons smuggling was bringing military-grade equipment to terrorist groups across 12 star systems. How did Agent Bradley prevent all of this? She asked her intelligence analyst. According to his files, he had informants inside every major criminal organization. But his methods for recruiting and maintaining these sources are not documented anywhere. What do his training manuals say? We found his training materials, but they focus on psychological techniques for building trust and reading body language. He wrote about understanding criminal motivations and finding ways to appeal to their better nature. Kexmora looked confused. Criminals do not have a better nature. They are criminals. Agent Bradley seemed to believe that most criminals could be convinced to help law enforcement if approached correctly. His success rate at turning criminals into informants was 93%. That is impossible. No one is that persuasive. The evidence shows he was. Crime in his area of responsibility was the lowest in the galaxy. And now? Now his former contacts will not speak to any of our agents. Without inside information, we are always one step behind the criminals. Ellen Murphy's asteroid mining innovations were proving equally impossible to replicate. Chief Mining Engineer Veltara stood before the massive asteroid processing facility that had been designed by Dr. Murphy. The facility was supposed to extract rare minerals from asteroids automatically, but it had been broken for 2 weeks. Extraction systems keep jamming, reported her technician. We have followed Dr. Murphy's maintenance procedures exactly, but nothing works. Show me the procedures, Veltara said. The technician brought up Dr. Murphy's maintenance manual on a computer screen. Step 1. Listen to the harmonic vibrations of the extraction drill. Step 2. Adjust the drill speed until the vibrations sound happy. Until they sound happy? What does that mean? We do not know. Dr. Murphy's assistant said she could tell. How the equipment was feeling by the sounds it made. Veltara had been an engineer for 25 years. Machines did not have feelings. They were mechanical devices that followed the laws of physics. This is nonsense. Equipment does not feel happy or sad. But Dr. Murphy's mining operation produced 3 times more minerals than any other facility in the galaxy. Her techniques worked, even if we do not understand how. Have we tried simply following standard engineering procedures? Yes, when we use standard procedures. The equipment breaks down within days. Dr. Murphy's methods kept the same equipment running for years without major repairs. Captain Ellen Murphy's space navigation techniques were creating similar problems. Pilot Zexandra was trying to navigate her cargo ship through the dangerous Magellan Nebula using Captain Murphy's route charts, but she was completely lost. The charts say to follow the blue stars until you reach the area that feels peaceful, and turn toward the constellation that looks like hope, she told her co-pilot. What does peaceful feel like in space? And how can a constellation look like hope? I have no idea. But Captain Murphy's ships traveled through this nebula safely for 15 years. Maybe she just got lucky. 15 years is not luck. Knew something about space navigation that we do not understand? Zexandra looked at her instruments. According to her computer, they were in the middle of a dangerous area filled with radiation and space debris. But Captain Murphy's chart showed this as a safe passage. Should we follow the computer or the human charts? Asked the co-pilot. The computer has never steered us wrong before, but Captain Murphy's charts have guided thousands of ships safely through this nebula. As the galaxy's infrastructure continued to collapse, desperate attempts to contact humanity became more urgent. The Galactic Council authorized massive resources for deep space exploration missions. Hoping to find where the humans had gone, Commander Zixtel led one of 12 search fleets sent to explore the outer regions of the galaxy. His ship, the Starfinder, was equipped with the most advanced sensors available. Any signs of human activity? He asked his science officer. We have detected some unusual energy signatures near the edge of explored space, but they are very faint. Faint. If they are human settlements, they are much further away than we thought possible. It would take months to reach them. Set course for the energy signatures. We need to find them. The atmosphere processors on Kepler-4 were dying. Dr. Allen Foster had designed them 20 years ago to maintain breathable air for 12 billion inhabitants across 6 worlds. Now the delicate biological balance he had created was falling apart, and nobody knew how to fix it. Environmental engineer? Pixtel stood in the central control room watching numbers on her screen turn red one by one. Oxygen levels were dropping on 3 worlds. Carbon dioxide was building 2 dangerous levels on 2 others. The 6th world had lost atmospheric pressure entirely, and its population was evacuating to emergency shelters. "How much time do we have?" asked her assistant. "On Kepler-4a, maybe 6 days before the air becomes unbreathable. On Kepler-4c, the carbon dioxide will reach lethal levels in 4 days. What about Dr. Foster's backup systems?" "That is the problem. Atmospheric processors use living organisms to clean the air. Bacteria, algae, and engineered plants that work together like a giant biological machine. When one part of the system fails, everything else starts dying." Pixtel had studied environmental engineering for 15 years. But Dr. Foster's biological approach was completely different from anything she had learned. Traditional air processing used mechanical filters and chemical reactions. Dr. Foster had created living ecosystems that could adapt and heal themselves. His maintenance logs talk about feeding the bacterial colonies and keeping the algae happy. How do you keep algae happy? I have been wondering the same thing. Dr. Foster's assistant said he used to walk through the processing plants and somehow sense when the biological systems were becoming stressed. That sounds like magic, not science. But it worked. It was atmospheric. Processors had the best reliability record in the galaxy. Meanwhile, war was spreading across the galaxy faster than anyone had imagined possible. The Vegan Alliance had launched a massive attack against the Centauri Republic, believing that the Republic was planning to invade vegan territory. The belief was completely wrong, but without human mediators to prevent the misunderstanding, fear had turned into violence. General Morkin led the Centauri Defense Forces, but he was fighting a war he did not understand. For 2 centuries, conflicts between major powers had been prevented by careful diplomacy and early intervention. Now ancient fears and suspicions were driving species toward mutual destruction. "Status report," he ordered his staff. "The vegan fleet has destroyed our colonies in the Proxima system. Our counterattack has been successful, but they are bringing in reinforcements from 12 star systems." "What about diplomatic contact?" Ambassador Calthan tried to arrange peace talks, but both sides are too angry to negotiate. The vegans believe we are planning to destroy their homeworld. Believe they are trying to take over our territory. General Morkin had read the historical records of how human diplomats had prevented similar wars. Ambassador Carol Stevens had stopped the border war of 2401 by arranging a simple dinner where the leaders of both sides could meet as people instead of enemies. But Carol Stevens was gone, and no one else seemed to have her gift for turning enemies into friends. "Sir, we are receiving reports of fighting in 8 more star systems. The war is spreading faster than we can contain it." "How many casualties?" "Over 2 million military personnel. Unknown civilian casualties, but the numbers are growing." General Morkin looked at the tactical display showing the expanding war zones. In 6 months, the galaxy had gone from centuries of peace to the largest conflict in recorded history. On the research station, Europa 7, young engineer Pixtel was working 18 hours a day trying to contact the missing humans. She had been Dr. Alan Foster's research assistant for 3 years, and was one of the few aliens who had developed genuine friendships with humans. "Any response to our transmissions?" asked her supervisor. "Nothing from the inhabited systems? But I have been detecting faint signals from the edge of explored space. Very advanced technology, but using communication protocols I do not recognize. Could it be the humans? The signal patterns are similar to human technology, but much more sophisticated. If it is them, they have made significant advances since they left." Pixtel had been transmitting the same message every day for 2 weeks. "This is Pixtel of the Regaline Science Institute calling any human settlements. The galaxy needs your help. Please respond. On the 5th day of the 3rd week, she finally received an answer. This is Commander Patricia Adams of the colony ship New Horizon. We have been monitoring galactic communications. We know about the crisis. Pixtel felt her hearts beating faster. Commander Adams, thank you for responding. The atmospheric processors on Kepler-4 are failing. 12 billion people will die if we cannot fix them. We are aware of the situation. We are also aware of the wars, the economic collapse, and the technology failures across 43 star systems. Can you help us? Dr. Foster's atmospheric systems are too complex for us to maintain. There was a long pause before Commander Adams responded. Dr. Foster is here with us. So are Dr. Palmer, Captain Monroe, Ambassador Stevens, and 8 million other humans who left the galaxy because you never noticed we were carrying the weight. We notice now. Please, 12 billion people are going to die. People have been dying for months while the Galactic Council pretended the crisis was not serious. How many died in the reactor explosions? How many died when the medical supply ships could not find their destinations? Pixtel felt ashamed. We made mistakes, did not understand how important human contributions were, called us mediocre. While depending on our mediation, you dismissed our innovations while building your civilizations on our foundations. You took credit for our solutions while treating us like junior partners. You are right, we were wrong. But innocent people are suffering now because of our mistakes. Commander Adams was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was sadder. We are not angry, Pixtel. We are just tired. We spent 1,000 years helping build galactic civilization, but we were never truly part of it. We were useful, but not valued. Where did you go? We found a region of space rich with uninhabited worlds. Beautiful planets where we can build a new civilization focused on sustainable growth instead of galactic politics. We are not interested in conquest or expansion. We just want to live in peace. Will you come back, even temporarily? Some of us have been discussing that possibility, but not to restore the old system where we do the essential work while others take the credit. If we return, it will be as equal partners, not helpful servants. What would that mean? It would mean genuine representation in galactic governance. It would mean recognition of our contributions. It would mean never again being dismissed as mediocre while the galaxy depends on us for survival. 3 days later, the first human ship in 6 months appeared in the Kepler system. It was smaller than the colony ships that had left, but its technology was obviously more advanced than anything in the galaxy. Dr. Alan Foster stepped off the shuttle onto Europa Station, where Pixtel and a team of environmental engineers waited desperately for his help. He looked older and more confident than when he had left. 6 months of building a new civilization had changed him. Dr. Foster, thank you for coming, said Pixtel. I came because you asked personally, and because 12 billion innocent people should not die for the mistakes of their leaders. But I want to be clear about something. What is that? This is not a return to the old system. We are here to help with this crisis, but afterwards we will negotiate a new relationship with the galaxy. What kind of relationship? One where humanity is valued as an equal partner, not taken for granted as a useful tool. Dr. Foster walked through the failing atmospheric processing plants with the confidence of someone who understood systems that others found mystifying. Within hours, he had identified the problems and begun implementing solutions. The bacterial colonies are dying because the nutrient balance is wrong, he explained to the alien engineers watching him work. These organisms are living creatures, not machines. They need care and attention, not just mechanical maintenance. How do you know what they need? Asked one of the engineers. Experience, intuition, and respect for the fact that biological systems are more complex than any computer. Within 3 days, the atmospheric processors were running normally again. 12 billion people could breathe safely. But Dr. Foster made it clear that this was just the beginning. We will help you repair the other critical systems, he told. The emergency council that had gathered on Europa Station, but only as part of a new agreement. What are your terms? Asked Administrator Nexville. Full membership in the Galactic Council with voting rights proportional to our contributions, recognition of human intellectual property and innovations, Equal partnership in all major decisions, not consultation after decisions have been made. If we refuse, Dr. Foster looked out the window at the stars where his people had built a new home. Then we return to our new worlds and let you solve your own problems. We proved we can build a civilization without you. The question is whether you can maintain yours without us. The negotiations took 2 weeks. For the first time in galactic history, humans were negotiating from a position of strength. It's something the galaxy desperately needed.